And hey there, hi there, ho there, on a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. We have got a action-packed show lined up for you today. We've almost got a full house. 4 out of our 5 normal participants are in here, with Daryl pushing buttons and wanting banana milkshakes over at the ACC Louisville building. But
probably have time today.
Yeah, it would be a great day for a milkshake. Beautiful weather. But we got Jeff and Case, and also myself, and not to mention Daryl not being here. But oh well, I know she's here with us in spirit, guys. But let's kind of get into it a little bit here. We got Case Hoskins in the house. Case had the write-up today at Cardinal Couple. Make sure and read that great article he had today. Case, you went through that softball marathon with us last night there. That was a rough one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about an 11-inning game for like baseball, and it's a lot of innings. When you talk about softball, it's 2 more extra innings there, and it was just a slog. Louisville offensively just not able to do anything. And credit to the Clemson pitcher, who was just phenomenal. But it was a really big pitcher's duel. I talked about, from the second to the 7th inning, there was like 5 total base runners for both teams. So, yeah, it was just a chore to get through. Louisville had their opportunities, and ultimately Clemson's the one that took advantage of the opportunity they finally got in the 11th, and that's the way it went. But definitely a chore.
Got to ask you, are you doing your Jeff McAdams happy volleyball dance and the fact that there's going to be women's soccer tonight?
It is pretty exciting. We'll see if they can do a little bit better against another college team than they did against the Racing Louisville a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that could be a tough one for them. We'll see, though. I just wish them the best of luck. We're still waiting for Jared Anderson to get me that interview he was going to do with Holly April. Not sure what happened on that, though, Jared. But are you already out at the ballpark, ready to go, buddy?
Yeah, I was sitting in my car eating a quick breakfast before I start walking down to Ulmer. But yeah, we looked at possibly talking to Holly last night, and then we'll when it's chilly and you can see the steam coming out of her ears, it's like, yeah, we may hold off for another day.
Well, wise move indeed there, I think, based on the situation. Jeff McAdams in the house with us, and he is worried about catastrophes in Iceland, of all things.
Yeah, not worried, but there's a volcano started erupting last night in Iceland, so interesting. I visited there, so it's a little bit of a point of interest for me. But no, I'm excited to watch some volleyball tonight, since I'm not gonna get to watch UofL volleyball tomorrow. Someday UofL will get a full weekend of volleyball in. This weekend is not that weekend.
This we can certainly hope for sure. And as for me, just kind of hobbling around on the gimpy knee, but I've been quite entertained by watching basketball and also a lot of UofL sporting events. So the kid's okay. He just isn't moving like he used to. But always improvement there. This is the time of the show where we get into the scheduling and Twitter information. Case will take us through that. It's another busy week ahead here, buddy.
Yeah, it is, and it starts off with a busy Saturday, of course, as it has been recently. Scroll wheel on my mouse, getting plenty of a workout. It starts off, track and field is outdoors. They've moved outdoors after the NCAA championships for indoor track. So their track is in Auburn at the Tiger Classic. That started yesterday, continuing all day today. Women's golf is also south of here in Athens, Georgia, taking on a host of teams at the Liz Murphy Collegiate Invitational. Swimming, wrapping up the NCAA championships. Today is the 4th and final day. The preliminary heats started at 10, so those should be some results coming in from prelims.
Oh, there are.
Around...
Been watching the Twitter feed. They're coming in hot and heavy.
Yeah, and then the finals will start at 6 p.m. Louisville in 13th, which After the first day, it didn't look so good because only 16 teams had scored points, so it looked like they were 13th out of 16. But now, I think up to like 16th out of 34 point score, or 13th out of 34 point scores. So, doing pretty good. Kentucky's ahead of them though, so hopefully on the final day they can pull ahead there. Baseball continuing their series against NC State in Raleigh today at 2 p.m. on the ACC Network Extra. They routed the Wolfpack yesterday 13-1. Men's soccer is taking on Boston College in Chestnut Hill, also at 2 p.m. Volleyball, like Jeff mentioned, is taking on Florida State in Charlottesville. That one is on video. They don't have a time listed here on the schedule. It is 2 as well?
Yep.
Okay. So you'll have to split screen volleyball and the second softball game, which did I skip the first one? I did. The first game in that doubleheader starting at noon, just after the show ends here, and then the second game of the doubleheader starts at 2:30. Both of those available on the ACC Network Extra. Daryl will play the replays for you. It'll be great. Then women's soccer with their first home match of the spring season. They're taking on Auburn at 5 p.m., also available on video. I think they had a few tickets available to general admission for free for that game as well. Limited capacity, obviously. Tomorrow, women's golf continuing in the Liz Murphy Collegiate Invitational. Baseball wrapping up their series against NC State. Women's tennis with the last game in their road stretch here, taking on Miami at noon. Lacrosse takes on Notre Dame at noon at home in the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium. And softball wraps up their series against Clemson at 1 p.m. The volleyball match that was scheduled to be played against Virginia, like we mentioned in the articles and a little bit briefly here today, that one is canceled. Forfeited, actually, but they don't put that on the calendar. They just say it was canceled. Field hockey, taking on Miami University of Ohio in Oxford, Ohio at 3 p.m. on Monday. There's no video or anything listed there, so you just have to find it for yourself. Women's basketball kicks off their NCAA championship run at 8 p.m. on ESPN. That is against Marist, the Red Foxes, as we've mentioned. Baseball taking on Western Kentucky at home on Tuesday. That one's at 6 p.m. on the ACC Network Extra. And then on Wednesday, the men's NCAA championships start and run through Saturday, just like the women's did this week. Men's tennis taking on Butler. That is the school from Indianapolis, not the high school down the street. You'd be surprised where it just says Butler, Louisville, Kentucky, which is how they call the high school when they're referencing it in various ways. So it was kind of off-putting for a second. That one's a doubleheader. They're playing them at noon and then at 4 on Wednesday. Thursday, just the NCAA championships continuing for swimming. Friday, men's tennis is in Coral Gables to take on Miami with no time announced, so that's a little weird. Women's golf heading down to South Carolina to take on the Tigers and some other teams in the Clemson Invitational. Women's tennis taking on Xavier at noon on Friday, trying to get some confidence back with some non-conference games in the middle of the season. Baseball starts a series against Notre Dame. That one's on the road. Starts at 4 p.m. and is on the ACC Network Extra. Volleyball taking on Georgia Tech as they host a small pod weekend next weekend. That one's at 5 p.m. Lacrosse heads up to Chestnut Hill to take on Boston College. And softball brings in Virginia Tech starting at 7 on Friday. So that's the calendar for the week ahead. It is, as always, a full one, especially as we are still in the midst of having 3 seasons of sports playing on top of each other, which is an ordeal.
So no video for field hockey listed on Miami of Ohio's site either. Sometimes the other team will have it listed, even if ours doesn't, but don't see any there, so I don't think we're going to get any. So.
That'll be keep up on Twitter and tune in to the Tuesday article for the recap there.
Interesting thing I did notice as I was looking, though. Do you know what Miami of Ohio's field hockey stadium is called?
I thought you were going to ask their mascot, and I was going to say it's the Red Hawks.
No, they are the Red Hawks as the mascot.
I do not know what their stadium's called.
Yager Stadium. which is
Nice.
amusingly close to Traeger Stadium for us. So yeah, I saw it. I kind of laughed. Anyway,
Yeah,
off topic.
as we move-
Yeah, sorry.
That's not off topic. It's perfectly on topic. As we move into Twitter, like we mentioned, follow along with Twitter to see how that game against Miami of Ohio is going to go on Monday. You can check out the right side of the site for the list of UofL athletics Twitters. I tweet is at best case scenario, the BST case scenario. Paulie is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Jeff McAdams and at Card Couple Radio. Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared, and Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. So that's the scheduling and Twitter there for you for the week ahead, as busy as it'll be.
Case Hoskins handling all that like a hot shot to third base and got it done as 11-11. So maybe a personal best for you, Case. Good work on that.
Even with my diversion.
Yeah, but we've come to expect those, Jeff.
That's right.
For.
That's what I'm here for, right?
It wouldn't be Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast if you didn't butt in with something totally irrelevant and
That's right.
sophomoric.
Like volcanoes in Iceland.
That's right. But they are important to the people in Iceland.
They are.
If there is anybody in Iceland listening in today,
Be careful.
Our best thoughts are with you all, please. Be careful.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real danger out of it, but yeah. So.
I don't know. It's a little bitty island, and volcanoes tend to spread, pal. I don't know. Scary stuff. But let's go ahead and get on into the meat and bones of the show here. And I kind of debated on which way to start today with women's basketball or softball, and I still haven't really fully decided. So we'll just take a poll on it real quick here. Where you want to go, Jeff?
Yeah, but let's start with basketball, I guess. I don't know. I don't have strong opinions.
Indecisiveness there as well. Okay. Case, you going to start with basketball?
Well, of course. Why not?
Okay. A definite affirmation there. Jared is on mute right now as he is up in the press boxes, supposedly at Ulmer Stadium. My guess is he's trying to track down Holly April for a few pregame comments, but I don't think that's going to go well for him. But yeah, let's go ahead and start it on out with the hoops then, as the Cards are going to be taking part in the NCAA Women's Basketball Championships. Yes, they are, by golly. And going to be going up against a school by the name of Marist. Marist. Does that sound familiar? It should, because if you followed Cardinal basketball for a period of time, you would know then, of course, that Marist has played the Cardinals twice in history. Once a couple of years ago after Jeff Walls got here, when they met out in the duel in the desert. And the Cardinals fell to Marist. They also met in Florida at the Gulf Coast Shootout. And I want to say it was 2016 on this one. I might be off a year or two on that. The Cards did win that one, though. Although not by a whole lot. So certainly a team that is good. A team that plays a very, very different style, as Jeff Walls was talking about, than what Louisville was normally used to. They stress defense at Marist. They do run a very, very patient offense at Marist. And they hold their opponents to 50 points a game. Nothing wrong with that at all. They only average 63.6 points a game. And I think the most important thing that we found out with Walls' preview of this game is he does know what their mascot's name is.
Yeah.
So
that's quite a bit about him. So
thanks to Sully for bringing that up for us there. Brian Giorgio said he's been at Marist since 2002, guys, and has really been tough in the MAC conference. That's 2 A's in there.
I was going to make that same joke.
Yeah. Mac. Not Chris Mack. Although some people think he should be in his own conference and elsewhere than Louisville. Enough on that. 461, 166 for Brian. Brian, big guy in many terms, many aspects of college basketball. One of the guys that has been a very, very strong proponent of making sure that his teams are ready for games. That they have really just been dominant in what they do. Louisville. This is not an easy draw. Well, let's kind of kick that around the table a little bit here as we talk about these Red Foxes here. Cards could have gotten a better draw, I think, but Maris, what do you think, Jeff?
I'm not too worried about this first game. I mean, you're dealing with some of the top teams in the country by this point in the season, so obviously you've got to show up, you've got to play, you've got to take it seriously. But the Marist, I'm not too worried about. Get out there, play your game, do well, advance. I'm kind of looking a little farther on and trying to figure out, what's the likelihood of advancing to, another Final Four, for example, at this point. And I haven't had a whole lot of chance to study it yet, so we'll see.
In case, let's take a look at this Marist team here just quickly. 18-3 overall. They won 13-3 in the MAC, and also they won the final game in the MAC tournament 69-30, beating up St. Peter's there to get that automatic qualifying bid there. I'll tell you what, that's a pretty impressive when you can win the conference championship by 39 points. So they do have some talent on this squad, and I don't know if you could say that they're a prohibitive upset darling of the people that are predicting and writing about these games. But I'll tell you something, you can never ignore anybody case in the NCAA tournament. And certainly Marist is going to be someone who's going to come out and give it their best against us, and we know that.
Yeah, and that result against St. Peter's in the MAC championship game was very abnormal, considering their history with St. Peter's. The MAC was one of those conferences, like many of the low major conferences, played just double headers for every single team, generally speaking. We played a couple of non-conference games against the University of Albany and Army, both of which they won. And then they had only 3 losses, like we mentioned. One of those was by 4 in overtime to Quinnipiac. One of those was by 3 in regulation against Fairfield. And then one of those was by 7 to St. Peter's in the last game of the season. And oddly enough, they beat St. Peter's by 16 the day before. So their relationship with St. Peter's, at least, was very odd, to say the least. But, we look at their schedule. They did suffer, like Louisville, a COVID pause. They had 4 games canceled. Didn't play against Iona or Monmouth this season, but did run straight through the rest of the MAC pretty easily. Like you mentioned, only allowing 50 points a game, but only scoring 63. What catches my eye is their shooting percentage. Pretty strong from the floor, shooting 42% on the year from the floor in general, and 33% from beyond the arc. But they're just shooting 68% from the free throw line all season. So if Louisville's defense can be as suffocating as we've seen it be in the past, and most of Marist's opportunities come from the line, then Marist is not going to have a very good day, I don't think. But I'm like Jeff. I'm not particularly concerned about this one. 15-2 upsets are always really exciting, but they're not particularly common in general, and they're really even less common in women's basketball because that gap can be even bigger between the high majors and the low majors conferences. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about this one. I think if Marist is the hardest 15 seed that was available, but you get the rest of Louisville's region draw, I think that Jeff Walls will take that every day of the week.
And when you kind of take a look at some of the other 2 versus 15s on opening first round action, Maryland, a 2 seed facing Mount St. Mary. I have a hard time making a case for Mount St. Mary in this one. Texas A&M is a 2 seed, and they're going to be facing Troy. Not sure Troy's agreeing with them to play against the A&M squad, but I don't see an upset in the brewing here. And then your final one is Baylor, a 2 seed against Jackson State, the 15 seed. Admittedly, I know nothing about Jackson State, so I really can't help you. What I do know here is that Louisville and Marist had no common opponents in the 2021 season. As far as personnel go, they are led by 5'11" junior guard Sarah Barcelo. She averages 12.9 points a game. They do have some height. 6'2" senior forward Willow Duffel, good for about 12.5 a game, and also leads them in rebounding with 9.2 grabs a contest. Not too shabby there for Duffel. She was also, I might add, the most valuable player in the conference tournament. They've also got some height as well in a freshman called Caitlin Weimer, 6'4". She goes 8.8 points a game and a second in rebounding with 7.5 a contest. They do have also very, very good guards in sophomore guard Trinazia Kennedy. She's good for 9.9 a game. And also Allie Best, who is a 3-point legitimate shooting threat along with Kennedy and Barcelo. So the Redhawks only attempt about 17 threes a contest. They make around 6 a game. So we'll kind of see what happens with that as far as Louisville forcing them to shoot from outside. I don't know if they'll do it or not. Jared, okay. Case is typing something.
Distracting you, sorry.
I'm so I'm so scatterbrained here. We'll see what is going on here, but I don't know if Jared is still in the press box or not, though. But Jared, when you take a look at, if you can hear me, at this Marist team here, what's your thoughts on them?
Yeah.
Still on mute, so okay. Jared has no opinion on Marist.
So he's not too worried about them. So all right,
he's not too worried about
similar, I think, to what Case and I have said.
Yeah. One of the things I got to wonder about here is it's been a while since we played, gang, and with the advent of Dana's final games with us and all, kind of a lack of activity for us in actual competition. Is it Dana's time? That's a very good point. Her ACC tournament performance wasn't the best. Is she ready to bounce back? What do we got to look for, Jeff, to see if Dana's ready to roll here or not?
Yeah, I think that's a big question mark, honestly. I love Dana. I think she's wonderful. She apologized after the ACC tournament. I was like, no. You don't apologize for the way you're playing. You're playing well. You're doing your job out there, and that's fine. But she has not had as successful as a postseason as she had regular season. In the last few games in the regular season, she seemed a little off as well. We'll put it that way. I absolutely want to see her do well. I think it lifts the entire team when she does well, and I'm hoping to see her get a little time with a little bit of a break here to kind of resettle, recenter, and come out and be ready to play. And be ready to play at the level that we know she's capable of.
It's Dana's show. Let's face it, she is the one that is going to stir the drink, so to speak. But in case, I think it's going to be very, very important, especially here in these early rounds, that we get some of the other essentials and players on this team to step up. I'm looking for big stuff out of Kiana Smith and also out of Liz Dixon in these early round games. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think that we talked about how Dana wasn't really at her peak performance in the ACC tournament. I think that was easy to see, but when Louisville was really rolling at their best throughout this season, it wasn't like Dana Evans was just carrying the team on her back. It was a real team effort, and Dana Evans just happened to be leading the team while doing it. So I agree that you're going to need more from everyone else as well, particularly the players that do pull the pressure off of Dana. Some consistency from Haley Van Lith will be key. Kiana Smith being able to make shots, which is what she provides to this team. That's what you're looking for from her. That's going to be incredibly important. And like you mentioned, Liz Dixon and Olivia Cochran as well, providing pressure on the inside, allowing the defense or forcing the defense to compact a little bit and not get too spread out and guard the outside and the guards, because they're just imposing forces on the inside. It's going to take a team effort, and no team wins an NCAA championship with just a single star player. That's just not the way that it works. So Dana obviously has to be better, but like you mentioned, those other players have to step up as well.
One of the things I think about the Cards region and the Cards draw here, obviously, Stanford being the number 1 seed, they call the Alamo region. I love these names. The Alamo region, the Riverwalk region, the Mercado region, and the Hemisphere region. So, obviously, trying to get a bit creative here with immediate success. The Cards may not be tested at all. And maybe this is a bold statement until they get to that Great 8, and then they run into the Cardinal, the Stanford Cardinal, the Trees with Tara Vanderveer. Jeff, is it going to be smooth sailing till we get to this Great 8?
There's some teams in there that I look at and circle as potentially challenging. Georgia is the 3 seed, and Oregon is the 6 seed in the region. They're both, potentially challenging teams to get past. They've got some talent. They've shown that they've been able to play well in high-level games, so I kind of keep an eye on those. The other matchup has Northwestern and UCF. Neither team is bad, but neither team is at the top level of play right now, so again, if we show up, we play our game, I'm not too worried about that. So, any challenge I think we have is at least Sweet 16 round, I think.
And as we take a look at especially the lower part of this bracket, I think a popular upset pick here in this Alamo region is
South
a lot of
Dakota.
People, yeah, or just took it right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Pal. You get credit for a steal, or was it a turnover by me? Yeah, the 13-6, the 4-13 matchup here is another one that also kind of I looked at a little bit. Wright State, they could possibly knock off Arkansas, but I'm not going to go real far with that projection. Let's take a look at South Dakota. They could take on an Oregon team that could maybe still be kind of swirling a bit in the controversy that Sedona Prince has created up there with her kind of brash and outspoken.
Let's be fair. She didn't create this. The NCAA created it. She just exposed it.
And maybe I misspoke there. No, she certainly did not create that. I'll give you credit for that, but she certainly expanded upon it and maybe took it to an extreme and a level where Oregon really doesn't want all that amount of attention concerning that. I would think that the head coach up there of Oregon, I think it's Kelly Graves, if I still remember that correctly, would be much more interested in his team being focused and centered in and ready to play basketball instead of comparing weight rooms and facilities between Indianapolis and San Antonio. Don't get me wrong here. I agree it is a travesty, it's an injustice, and it's totally stupid for the NCAA to discriminate against women's basketball by giving them less than what they've provided for the men. But at this time of year and time of season, I don't know if you need that extraneous type of kind of sidebar case in order to take your team off their main focus and prize at it, advancing and surviving.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we also saw a video of Jeff Walz and Sam Purcell clowning on the NCAA about it too. So, they've got a number of days there. They can have a little fun too while they're doing it. That didn't come out right. It's not fun. They're bringing up a very serious issue that needs, and believe me, I have opinions, and I have no problem naming names. Mark Emmert and Dan Gavitt. They have the time to prepare and get ready for this tournament, but also still be able to take a few minutes and say, hey, look, this is an injustice. This is This is an ongoing pattern with the NCAA. This is not the first time this sort of maybe most egregious example of it. But there needs to be some serious changes here. I don't know. I'm getting into rant mode here, so.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop you, before you get too full blown and turn into another volcano.
Yeah.
But let's take this up in full earnest and hit it with all 5 cylinders after the tournament.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
you want your team focused and steady and ready to go. You want their eyes on the prize. You don't want the distractions. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay. Yeah. But I think you want your team solely with that intent of looking at what they've got ahead of them and what they've got to do. And then after that, take the NCAA to task. Because what are they going to do about it now? Let's be quite honest and brutally frank about it. Are they going to go in there and all of a sudden bring in a brand new weight room facility?
Well, yeah, they are.
They are, actually.
That's what they said, because they recognize how absolutely unbelievably dumb it is.
Yeah.
Then my question
there were also quite a few local gyms that offered some of their services just to the San Antonio area for many of the teams to come and use. And they offered to, because the teams are in a bubble, you have to make the gym private at those hours and make sure it's sanitized. But I thought that was very high class of many of those gyms to do. And watching the videos that some of the UofL coaching staff has posted, it looks like they've adjusted well in the hotel and they're just making do with what they've got and improvising really well. You got to give credit to especially the conditioning, weight, and training staff, just being able to figure out what's going to work with what they've got, and even hooking up to some of the room doors. If you watch some of those videos, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and also I'm going to jump in also on this is that, you say what are they going to do now? And well, I think they can do some things now, but if you sit on it and don't bring it up as an issue until afterwards, then they've got even less that they're going to do. You bring it up now, you make it an issue now, because afterwards it's just a statement and a press release and it's over. Now it's a PR crisis that they have to respond to. If you're not, this is organizational thought. You have to make it painful for the organization in order to get the organization to change its culture. Culture comes from the top, and maybe ultimately that means that Mark Emmert needs to go. I tend to think he should. So, I don't know. I think if you wait till afterwards, it becomes a footnote that doesn't get dealt with.
Don't forget, this is more than just the gym. They were comparing the food options and what the women's teams are receiving. It looked like a middle school lunch, and then you see pictures and videos of the men's team, and it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. And then you take it another step further, and you're looking at these little goodie bags, and the players are pretty much trapped in their rooms. You got to give them something to do, and a 150-piece puzzle for the whole tournament is kind of insulting. When the men's team, you have to throw it on a wheelbarrow to bring everything in that each player got. Yeah. So it just extends way beyond the gym. It's just little things here and there that are all adding up, and at this point, it's like the poop is hitting the fan.
Yeah, I liked Maya Angelou's quote. That's pretty well known, but it's a good one. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Right? The NCAA has shown us year after year after year who they are, and it's time for them to feel some pain for this. They need to feel this. They need to get hurt by this badly, or else this will continue. So it needs to happen, and it's not just the choices that they made in doing these things; it's the responses to it as well. Even the crisis PR responses to it. Oh, we didn't have the extra gym equipment because there wasn't space. Turns out to be complete bullcrap, right? The swag bags had different stuff in it because it's different weather in Indianapolis and San Antonio. Right, because everyone knows in San Antonio, the critical piece of equipment you need for the weather there is an umbrella? I mean, give me a break. These are people that are out of touch. They don't actually believe these things. They're just trying to cover their rear ends at this point. I'm furious if you can't tell.
Yeah, certainly good points all, Jeff. And I'm sure we could probably spend the rest of the show here discussing this very, very traumatic situation. But let's go ahead and kind of move on a little bit and get into some other things. We'll close it out by taking a look at when the Cards, and I'm going to say this unqualified, when the Cards get by Marist, are going to face the winner of the Northwestern UCF game. My guess is that we're going to maybe see UCF with an upset, because Lord knows over the years, all the times that Louisville has played Northwestern and other sports, it has been kind of a travesty for the Cards. So let's hope it's UCF. And also, Ashton Verhulst down there. We know her because her sister Peyton is coming to Louisville. Ashton plays for the UCF Golden Knights down there. So, although hadn't been playing much lately, don't know if she's injured up or what. But in any event, here we go. It all starts tomorrow.
I've always liked UCF. I want to see them do well. You know, that would be a fun upset to see over Northwestern. So, I don't know. I haven't even started doing my bracket picks. I guess this is me starting to do it right now. I'm picking UCF over Northwestern.
I've been doing it while you were ranting about NCAA. Yeah. I also picked UCF over Northwestern.
Yeah.
All right, so there you have it. It's trending right now
on
the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast board. UCF, the 10 over the 7. We'll see. Will it be South Dakota and Louisville facing off in the Sweet 16? Some people are nodding their heads. Yes, it could be. Somebody asked Oregon and Georgia about that. They may have a disagreement, but all to find out, all to see as the games get underway on Sunday. And final thoughts, anybody else on the tournament? I know, Jeff, you could probably go another 15 minutes, but
yeah, I could.
Let's go final thoughts here real quick before we move on to other sports.
Yeah, I will reiterate that culture comes from the top in every organization ever. The only exception being if you have new leadership, that it takes a little while for that culture to percolate through the organization. But Mark Emmert has been at the NCAA for how long now? He has shown us who he is. So, yeah, long walk off a short pier, Mark, as far as I'm concerned. That's my final thought. I'm furious.
There we go. Jeff is going to take a nice walk out in the outdoors now for the rest of the broadcast to calm down.
Yeah.
Moving on back into town here, though, we do have softball action getting underway in just about 25 minutes out at Ulmer Stadium, as the Cards will take on the Clemson Tigers in a doubleheader today. Last night's marathon took place at Ulmer under the lights last night and was a pitcher's duel for the longest time. Cagle going against Roby, back and forth, inning after inning of mowing down the competition as it was, guys. And then all of a sudden, the Cards make a pitching change. It looks like it's going to work out okay. Things look like it's going to be okay. It looks like we're good here. And then Clemson erupts for 4 big runs in the top of the 11th inning, and they go on to take the 4-0 win. We were all watching this one in various ways, either being out there or watching it on the ACC Network Extra. And I've got to ask Jared here. He said he stepped out of the press box. I'm not sure what that means, whether he was asked to leave or not. But Jared, if you can mute up, I don't know if you can. Thoughts on last night?
Yeah. Well, first it was cold by then. The weather started off really great, and the weather obviously is pretty fantastic today. It's just there's not much you can do in a pitcher's duel, and your offense has struggled this year. There was plenty of opportunities for the Cards to put up runs, and it felt like the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th innings all there. When you get runners on base and you have runners in scoring position and you can't bring them in, I mean, you have to obviously credit Clemson's pitcher for a fantastic outing, but you also have to raise a question like, what's going on with the offense? You've come up to the plate. Some of them probably had 4 or 5 at bats. You've seen the same pitcher. Eventually, you should at least be able to see her wind up and how the pitches are coming across. they're not seeing the ball well, and some of them they're just struggling at the plate. And I think there's some adjustments you're going to have to make just in the batting cages with some of the players to turn that around. Roby pitched a great game, and I thought Lenhart came in and pitched some solid innings until that 11th where they started hitting her, and then Holloway came in, and she got that first strikeout, and after that it was just kind of downhill. And usually you can come back if you're down 1-0. That one run isn't always a big deal because you can play some small ball and maybe throw some base runners around. But once you're down 2, 3, 4 runs, it's almost impossible to come back, especially when you're not able to score the whole game. So there's plenty of things to be frustrated about, but you also have to be optimistic with the fight that UofL had. I mean, up through the last inning, they were really fighting out there and putting forth every ounce of energy they had. So there's certainly some good to take away from it, and some things to be hopeful for the doubleheader today and then the game tomorrow. And I think we're going to see an offense get hot today.
Case I had to kind of wonder about it when they pulled Roby to bring in, of course, Jen Leonard. I didn't like the move. What were you thinking about it?
It is what it is. I think in hindsight, it looks like it was a terrible choice. But when you look at how her first few innings went, she did everything she needed to do. Louisville had multiple chances in this game, even while she was in, or for her to not even have pitched at all. They had an opportunity, albeit a small one, in the bottom of the 7th to get a walk-off situation. And then they had a good opportunity in the bottom of the 8th right after she came in and couldn't get it done. So, it's unfortunate. It looks like it was the wrong choice in hindsight, but you also don't know how Taylor Roby would be performing after so many innings pitched. It would be
3 hours of pitching.
Yeah, I mean, the Clemson pitcher was able to do it, but we've never seen Roby do that here. So to say that it was a mistake to take her out, I have a hard time doing that just because of it. We can't imagine how it would have gone after that. Like I wrote in an article today, Louisville had 11 players left on base, 14 strikeouts. They led 6-1 hits before that 11th inning, and they just didn't get it done. Plenty of opportunities right out of the gate. They had 2 on, 1 out in the first inning and couldn't score, and that kind of set the tone for the entire rest of the game.
They called RISP, runners in scoring position, and the Cards unfortunately weren't able to get any of those home, so that's something we'd like to see change today. We got this just recently in from Darrow's over in ACC Louisville headquarters that Celine Funky will not bat in the first game. She will play center field but will not be a batter in Holly's lineup. We've kind of seen a decline of the funk a little bit this year at the plate, guys, and let's kind of take this around. What's going on with our superstar?
Yeah, we talked about this before the show started and just kind of analyzing what she's doing at the plate. And I think it goes all the way back to, in high school, Funky was a right-handed batter. She comes to Louisville, and due to her speed, we're switching her. Sandy Pearsall liked the speed. We're switching her to left-handed, doing a lot of slap hitting, which she's very successful at. Holly April comes in and is switching that up again, and she's like, look, we're going to have you stand in and swing, and we've seen Funky hit some home runs and some big shots. And Funky's kind of like in a weird mojo right now where she's swinging all arms right now, which is almost like reverting back to those slap hitting days without the running head start. If you watch her at bats, her legs and her hips, nothing, the lower half of her body isn't moving. And when you look at softball, the power at the plate is with your lower body. Your arms are just there to swing the bat and put it in the right position. So I think she needs to it takes some time, get back in the batting cage, and sometimes you have to break things all the way back down to build it back up. I'm not overly worried about it. I think we'll see her find her hot streak again next series when we're home again next weekend. So I'm not overly concerned. Everybody kind of falls in those slumps, and you just get knocked out of what you're used to doing. I don't think it's too much to worry about.
Certainly hope when you're correct on that. She is such an integral part of this team. Enthusiasm alone, is just such a big factor in what the Cards do. We'll find out more about her as the doubleheader progresses today and see what happens out there. Also action on Floyd Street as well later on tonight as Louisville women's soccer goes into action as they take into Lynn Stadium, and they'll be playing, and I'm not positive, I think it's a 7 o'clock if I'm not mistaken, but I could be off on that.
5.
It is a 5 o'clock. Okay, I was wrong on that. As they bring in Southeastern Conference foe Auburn. The Tigers, the War Eagles, come to town for a game over there. We'll be certainly monitoring this one on the ACC Network Extra. I don't know as to we're going to have any presence out there unless Jared maybe tries to sneak over after softball. But I haven't received any information on it or anything like that. But it'll be nice to kind of see.
We'll see. I'll try and sneak over there. We'll see how softball goes, and
if we have another,
and if I can catch a quick break.
If we have some more 11-inning games, it may not happen.
That's right. You got to sleep and
we've
eat
already
sometimes,
sat through 2 games basically last night is what 11 innings would total.
About, yeah.
Should be interesting for that. And then in other things going on campus, of course, we had the Thursday night lacrosse action where the Louisville lacrosse team brought in number 1 UNC to Cardinal Stadium, the football arena over there under the lights. Major ACC game as they played it on the ACC network in Louisville. I think they found out why North Carolina's number 1, guys.
Yeah.
Ortega kind of went off on us there. Case this one's just the Cards were trying, but unfortunately North Carolina just is all that in goalkeeping, also in the attack positions, aren't they?
Yeah, it was Louisville really just fell victim to a few UNC streaks, which, yeah, they're going to do that. UNC's incredibly good. UNC's also just completely crazy in they call them non-revenue sports, I guess is the phrasing that you can use. But they're number 1 in like 5 sports right now. It's insane.
Hockey,
Men's and women's lacrosse,
okay.
Field hockey, maybe a track or something like that. But they're really good at non-revenue sports, and we've seen that in the battles with field hockey, where Louisville puts up a really good fight. And Scott Teeter is working to make Louisville put up really good fights in these lacrosse matches too. It's been a long time since Louisville's been able to get up and get excited about a match like this. They put it under the lights. They put it on TV. They had it at Cardinal Stadium. It was a really exciting setup, and right out of the gate, Louisville looked like they were gonna, not go down without a fight. UNC scored right at the end of the first minute, and Louisville got it right back 2 minutes later. So for the first 5 minutes of the game, Louisville looked like they were going to give them a fight, but UNC got their first streak going, scored the next 7 goals, and that was just kind of it for the Cards. They were able to fight back, got it to 10-5, and then to 11-6 in the second half, but after that, it was all UNC with that 19-7 final. So a couple of big runs make it look like a more brutal loss than it was, and that's not to say, when you lose by 12, it's a brutal loss, but Louisville just kind of got behind and on their heels a little bit, and UNC was not going to let them get away with that. And that's just how it went.
You see different sports. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
No, Jared, I'm sorry. Go right ahead, sir.
I was just saying, you see different sports have these dynasties over periods of time, and the common one we refer to would be the UConn women's basketball dynasty over many years, and you see that now with North Carolina and lacrosse, as well as North Carolina and field hockey, and it's pretty much everybody else is playing for second place when you come to the tournament, and that's just how things are sometimes, where North Carolina is just insanely good, And UofL put up a much better fight than about half of North Carolina's opponents this year, and almost everybody North Carolina's played has been ranked. So I think it's very promising, and that UofL was really putting up a fight and keeping it rather close at halftime and for the first few minutes of the second half. It was still a pretty decent ball game, and a couple things here and there go the Cards' way, and we could have found ourselves tied late in the second half. But as Case mentioned, we fell victim to those North Carolina runs. There's not much you can do about it there. Like I said, they're insanely good. But I thought the way that UofL handled and never panicked and continued to push and press forward, I mean, that just shows what the direction our program is heading. If you look back at Scott Teeter's first season and some of those losses we took, and there was no heart, there's no fight out of our team. That was way different Thursday night. And you can tell they're starting to believe in Teeter and believe in his system, and things are really turning around. So I don't think there's anything to be disappointed about losing 19-7 to North Carolina. I mean, I think we all expected it was going to be a lose and that it could be pretty ugly. North Carolina was fresh off a 22-1 victory over Virginia Tech. I mean, we outscored Virginia Tech by 7 goals, and then we held North Carolina to fewer than Virginia Tech gave up. And that's pretty promising right there. I'm not at all disappointed or worried about that. It's just I want to see how we bounce back tomorrow. It's going to be more of what I'm interested to see.
With the Notre Dame Irish coming in tomorrow, Jeff, when I looked at this game last night, the one thing that stood out to me more than maybe anything else was that how fast North Carolina was on the field. They were amazing. Such good ball control and such speed, which seems to be a very integral part of the lacrosse game, sir.
Yeah, it was really interesting. With it being in Cardinal Stadium, you had a little different background, and I only got to watch some of this game, and I didn't see all of it, but it was definitely like the feel of the speed was different from having the different background, I think. Yes, they were very fast. They were, give them credit. They're a great team. They are in shape. They're toned. They're out there. They've got a lot of speed. We've had players on our teams that have been speedy. Go back to the Hannah Koloski days, for example. They were impressive to watch in general.
Indeed, they were. So, but Teeter's building a program there, and it's going to be a good program. I think if you get the man time, you'll certainly bring in the players that will make us very competitive in the ACC as well as in D1 lacrosse. So keep pitching in there, Scott. You got yourself something working. Jeff, we'll go ahead and stay with you here because they're going to be playing volleyball tonight, although it's not on Floyd Street and not in the LN Federal Credit Union. They're going to Charlottesville to play Florida State.
Yeah,
what's going on here?
Yeah, neutral court. That's what the ACC is doing with this spring portion of this season, this weird season that's been weird in so many different ways. They're bringing 3 teams together in a weekend and play round robin over the 3 days of the weekend between those 3 teams. At least that's the plan. That hasn't yet happened for UofL as planned yet in this season at all. But that's been the plan, trying to minimize travel, trying to minimize issues with exposure to COVID-19 and stuff like that. Understandable. I get it. We end up with a lot more neutral court matches than we normally do, which is kind of fun in some respects. That's what we're going to have tonight is a neutral court match, Florida State and UofL in Charlottesville. It's going to be this could be a really good match. Florida State's a pretty good team. Traditionally, they're traditionally a very good team. A little off in recent years, but they've got some incredibly good players. Erin Kneath is still down there. I feel like she's been there for a decade and still hasn't graduated, but I think she's only a junior too. So, great player. They've got a lot of talent. They're a good team, and they're going to be a challenge for us. Absolutely. We get officially a win tomorrow versus Virginia, but the match will not actually be played as Virginia has shut down their program for the year and fired their whole coaching staff. So that's an interesting one. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a full normal weekend when what's supposed to be a normal weekend for this team sometime this year. Like I said, it hasn't happened yet. Both all the previous weekends have been COVID altered. Now we have who knows what going on at Virginia, altering the schedule. But the one we get to watch tonight, this afternoon actually, 2:00. I'm looking forward to it. This will be a good game.
I do agree with you that it should be fun to watch, and we'll certainly see how that goes. This volleyball team, of course, playing in the split season like they are, certainly is going out and doing some great things. A lot of experimentation, though, by Danny Busboom. Kind of going into that a little bit.
Yeah, we saw some changes to some lineups. We've seen Anna DeBeer not quite playing as much as she did in the fall. We saw Piper Rowe in the lineup one weekend. I think maybe that might have been a little bit of senior day, getting a little bit of extra playing time there. But we've seen Nena and Bonu in place of Anna DeBeer quite a bit. Nena's a very good player. She has a lot of talent. I always felt like she was a little rough around the edges as far as her volleyball skills. So, if she's put the time in the, season not pause, that's the term we're using for COVID stuff, season break, as this weird year is working out, then we've got, it's going to be, if she's put that work in and improved and refined her game, then hey, great, it's competing for a good spot among a lot of really good players. It's a enviable place to be in. So I suspect we'll see a little less experimentation against Florida State. This is going to be, let's put our best team on the court.
Certainly will be interesting to see how that works out for them. Moving into, I guess, some other things before we get into the final thoughts segment here. Dawn Staley's been active this morning, huh?
Yeah. I'd say this may have come out last night, actually, but I don't know.
UofL certainly also been a little active as well on Twitter today, so all kinds of information popping up here, boys and girls, about things that are going on in relationship to basketball and some of the other stuff that's happening out there in the world. It's I don't know, maybe it's a little bit, in my viewpoint on it, kind of distracting from the main reason that all these teams are gathered together, and that's to play basketball. But I certainly understand why. I wish that it wasn't going on. I wish that things were equal for the women as well as the men in all these aspects, because it's being a true purist and love of the game and the sport. I hate to see sidebars take anything away from it, but unfortunately they are there, and I guess we do have to deal with them. So that is the way that rolls. But Jared has left us. They're lining up for the national anthem out there, and so they'll be starting that up pretty soon. That one's over on ACC Network Extra if you all want to get into it. I think what we'll do is just go ahead and roll into some final thoughts now. And Jeff, we'll let you, I can almost guess what yours are going to be, but I'll let you start us out with your final thoughts.
I've said my thing. I will say, go check out Dawn Staley's release. It's pretty lengthy. It's probably long to read on the show here, but Dawn Staley is a woman who has spoken forcefully about matters of justice and equity over the years in her time at Temple and now at South Carolina. I have just huge respect for her. Go check out her statement. It's pretty impressive, and I think she speaks to why she and others feel the need to speak out and to make this an issue. And I think it's good. Other than that, I'm gonna go watch some volleyball and have a little fun for the afternoon.
Certainly having fun, the good aspect of weekends, and certainly hope that it's a fun new viewing experience for volleyball tonight as well. Case, final thoughts?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out. I put this in our text group, but everybody else that listens to the show should listen to the podcast as well. By Spencer's. It's hosted by Jordan Liggins and big Louisville fan, and now popular sports writer Haley O'Shaughnessy. And their most recent episode was a feature piece with Natalie Weiner about women dunking in basketball and why it doesn't happen, and it's not for the reasons that you would think. I thought it was a really, really great listen, and I think everybody else should give it a listen. I posted the link on my Twitter if anybody wants to find it there. But switching back to Louisville news, a shout out to the track team. Renee Van Tonder and Alexis Gibbons going first and second in the long jump yesterday as they get prepared for day 2 of this Tiger Track Classic. So a good start for them in the outdoor season, and Louisville will be looking forward to a strong showing in outdoor track just like they had in indoor.
Certainly hope that they do their best, and of course the Louisville track and field, let's emphasize the field part, because we've certainly got very good field performers out there, obviously in the throws competitions, the various ones that we have, and also in pole vaulting and all and such. Track and field, emphasize the field. Yeah. Final thoughts for me here as we get into it. It's just a fun, one of my favorite weekends of the entire year coming up now and going into Monday. Certainly with the women's basketball tournament starting. If you want to take your chances and see if you can win some money and do some dances, why don't you get in the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast pick 'em for the Ncaa tournament. You can read any of the daily articles at Cardinal Couple to find out how to enter. If you haven't entered, I strongly encourage you to see if you can take stuff from our prize closet. See if you can win that $25 gift card for either Subway or Raising Cane's. Always a lot of fun. We have a lot of back and forth on it here at the site, and so we encourage you to see if you can dethrone David Watson. Yep.
Yeah. Somebody needs to.
Yeah, because David is so full of himself
He's getting a big head. I don't know.
Get that guy off his pedestal.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody needs to knock him off the top of the mountain, to put it that way.
We love you, Dave, but
We do love you. And Dave has occasionally listen into the podcast, so if you catch us either live today, Dave, or if you're listening, down the road, go ahead and leave something in the comments section and we can bust it on next week, okay?
That's right.
All right. Fun show today. We appreciate everybody listening, and we'll certainly be back with you next Saturday, unless you know something we don't, to catch up on what's happened in the week of UofL sports. Until then, I hope everybody has a great weekend, and we appreciate you listening to the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. Go Cards!